Economically, the Bank of England is widely expected to hold interest rates amid Middle East instability, while the BBC revealed plans for 550 job cuts, starting with around 200 in news, as part of a major £500 million savings drive. In politics, tensions simmer around Keir Starmer amid by-election pressures and internal challenges. Other stories include strong progress against cervical cancer in vaccinated young women, and a developing European heatwave set to push UK temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius. Geopolitical notes involve UK-Russia tensions over the Shadow Fleet and Ukraine developments. A mix of sport, belt-tightening, and summer vibes dominates the day. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Well, what a start for England. Welcome to the World Cuppa with me, Mark Littlewood, broadcasting from beautiful, sunny Calador, Mallorca, where I was in the Hollywood bar last night. Loads of England fans there. Absolutely fantastic atmosphere. Only ruined slightly by the fact that they had the match streamed on two different broadcasters, and the Spanish broadcaster was about 1 full minute ahead of the satellite broadcaster. So all those watching the satellite broadcaster had already heard from the other side of the pub all the cheers and all the groans. So I moved to that side. So I was ahead of the game. What a win for England. We're going to be getting into that. A few other matches as well that we should review and look back on. But England's first 4-2 win in the World Cup since winning the World Cup in the final against West Germany in 1966. I think I've got my wingman with me, who is made it now properly back from France. Glynn, great to have you with us. We're going to be coming to your Glyndex a bit later on in the show with all sorts of stats about what's happened and what to look forward to. But how was it for you, darling?
What a contest. What a contest. Two fierce rivals are going head to head. They're vying for the top spot. Raucous support on both sides. Intensive battles on the right wing, then on the left wing. Oh no, that's Makerfield. Sorry. Let's talk about the football. I thought it was absolutely brilliant, but terribly worrying at the same time. But we'll get into that in a bit, yeah?
Yeah, so, I mean, definitely the match of the tournament so far, right? I mean, I was watching it thinking, if I was a neutral, I might be enjoying this. But as an England fan, I think my heart rate hit over 150. I'm on a weight loss regime at the moment, so I'll probably shed a few pounds through sheer perspiration. But the England fans have been making quite an impression in Dallas. I think the Dallas police are just a bit curious about them. But they seem to have blended in quite well. And I think we've got a clip about England taking over Dallas and possibly the rest of Texas. I think that's clip number 5. And from what I can gather at the moment, hasn't been too much trouble, just riotous partying and, probably too much drinking, but all in very good spirits. So let's play clip 5, Pooch. Great stuff. They seem to be having a good time. I love singing Sweet Caroline at the rodeo. But let's just get into the game a bit, Glynn, because, fantastic game. But Sophie was just saying on the previous show, she would have rather had Maguire in our back line, slightly ropey defence. I mean, the 2 Croatian goals were good, but the defending was somewhat suspect. Doesn't bode well if we come up against a better team compared to Croatia, which we surely will pretty early in the tournament.
Yeah.
Right? What was your analysis of the match overall, rather than hurrah, we won?
I was just really worried that the first time we'll come up against somebody, let's say Elise, even Diaz, that there'll be a winger who can really open up that back four. And if you recall yesterday, Mark, when we were talking and projecting which lineup we'd have for the night, not that we're England's managers, I've got a similar hairline to Tuchel, so I can at least imitate him. I would have had Mark Gay in the side all day long. I think he's always looked incredibly assured in the Premiership and in an England shirt. So I'd have just felt much calmer if he was at the back. John Stones, lovely player. I think Tuchel probably likes him in principle because he's gifted on the ball and he can step forward into midfield and perhaps break the lines, as they say. But what they really got to do in the first instance is stop them getting through our lines. So I was a bit worried, and thankfully, we do have Declan Rice and Elliot Anderson. I think Anderson's going to emerge as one of the stars of the tournament. Actually, I think it's why City and United are already talking about paying 109 million for him. So how much is he going to be worth by the end of the tournament? But they can only do so much. There's a point at which it comes down to pure defending. And of the back four, Jordan Pickford, great keeper, great reflexes, but he always seems to be like a 3-year-old on orange juice, jittery. And that kind of then spreads, I think, to the back four. And I think Nico O'Reilly looked a little out of place. Again, fantastic player in a City shirt. I don't think he just feels quite at home for England yet, for the seniors. I think it might have made a difference if he'd scored that fairly easy chance, actually. I know he's not there to score goals, but we know he can do it. And then with Reece James, lovely player, but I always think he's just, every time he goes into a tackle, I think he's going to do his calf, or he's going to do his thigh, and then who do we fall back on? So they're my reservations. How about you?
Yeah, it's obviously the defensive side. I mean, explosively, we're explosive going forward, and could have scored more than 4. But yeah, if you're worried you're going to let in 2 goals a game, against a decent team, it makes it all a bit tricky, doesn't it? But look, don't you agree, Glynn, that we at UK Live Online can claim that we tactically assisted Tuchel in winning this match? We exposed Saka for not knowing the new corner kick rules. And this is for anybody who's in the dark about this. When you see all this jostling in the box just as a corner's about to be taken, the old rules used to be all of that jostling's fine until the ball comes into play. So all of the sort of shirt pulling and trying to hold your position or nudge half a yard forward. But they've changed the rule for the World Cup such that if attacking players are doing that, a foul will be called, even if the ball is dead, even if the corner kick has not been taken. But defensive players can hold their ground, do a bit of pushing and shoving until that ball is kicked. If it goes on after the ball's kicked, it's obviously a penalty kick. Saka and Rice are the supposed England penalty takers. Saka was, I think, surprisingly dropped from the starting 11, and we're claiming credit for it because yesterday on the World Cuppa, we exposed Saka. And I think we've still got the clip. It's clip number 2. He was asked in a press conference what he was going to do, what the implications were of the new rules. And he could have said, well, I'm obviously not going to disclose tactics from the training ground to you. But in fact, it's pretty obvious he didn't understand the new rules at all. So let's see how useless Saka was on clip 2, Pooch.
Thomas has said you and Declan Rice are the corner takers. I just wanted to ask you about the new rule and the meeting that you had with the FIFA officials. Do you think that the rule that you can now award a foul before the corner is taken is going to be an improvement? The manager says that he thinks it's going to be a lot for referees to consider.
Wait, what's the rule, sorry? Award?
If an attacking team makes a foul before the ball is in play, they can award a foul and end that corner, essentially.
I don't understand.
It's okay. Next question. There you go.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Yeah.
I can explain again.
No, we'll move on.
These people are paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week in order to win games of association football, and he doesn't understand the goddamn rules. So I was glad we exposed him. I was glad that England won. We did actually, because I'm a Southampton fan, we're pretty good at spying, and we did manage to get one of my Southampton colleagues to actually break into the England tactics room. So I've got hard proof that we led to Saka being dropped from the England team. And that's image 7, if we can call that up. There you go. There's Tuchel watching UK Live Online and talking about the corners. That must have led to Saka being dropped. Anyway, he had an hour or so, Glynn. I should just say, for the avoidance of doubt, that is somewhat AI generated, that image. It was a great corner from Rice rather than Saka to lead to our openers. So look, great 4-2 win for England. We're going to be getting into more of that later on. But
I'll just tell you what. I'll just tell you one thing about
other games we got to whiz through, Glynn.
Yeah.
And the big surprise, Portugal against the Democratic Republic of Congo, 1-1 draw, and Portugal could quite easily have lost. What the hell do we make of that one?
Well, Portugal looks so flat-footed, didn't you think? And I wonder, it's not an original thought, this, but I wonder if they're hampered by Ronaldo, that he's so static in the middle. And I'm not sure the other 10 are happy he's in the team. And given what a gifted squad they've got, does he warrant being in the team anymore? I know it's almost unthinkable to talk about such a great of a game like that, but he was somewhat statuesque, and it makes Portugal an altogether less mobile and fluent team.
So, I think sometimes the superstars get treated favourably both on selection, and Lionel Messi should have been sent off for Argentina. Any other player without superstardom would have been sent off the other night. Quickly, Ghana versus Panama. I stayed up to watch every minute of that. Having watched the best game of the tournament, this was by far the worst game of the tournament. Did not even deserve to be graced by a goal in the final seconds of stoppage time. But Ghana have won 1-0, so they're tucked behind England in the group. I mean, that was dire. I mean, I don't know if you caught up on the highlights, Glynn, but the highlights must have been a reel of about 12 seconds. It was appalling.
The lowlights, do you mean?
Yeah, the lowlights of that match. I mean,
absolutely.
The less said about that, the better. And then what about Uzbekistan in their World Cup debut against Colombia? Some people, long shot, dark horse tip. I mean, I've lost count of the number of World Cups in which Colombia have been a dark horse tip, but a comfortable 3-1 win for the Colombians.
Well, was it comfortable? I mean, it was like a 99th minute winner. So the last half hour, from like minute 60 to minute 98, it was just 2-1. So they were still well in the game. And like you, I think they did really well. I just wonder one thing, Mark, one question about this. When you're watching World Cup football now, do you watch it through the prism of the Premiership? That you're going, oh, he plays for Palace and he plays for City and he used to play for Liverpool and all that kind of, in a way that in competitions years ago, we didn't know these players because they didn't play on our shores. But now they're household names.
Yeah, we do know a lot more about them. Yeah, when I were a lad, the first you'd know about the Brazilian team was watching them, I guess. I think it's something like 400 Premier League players in this World Cup or something.
407, I think,
407, there you go. The Glindex there. Pulling
City have got 19 players at the World Cup.
Yeah, so we know it a lot better, and football's on television all the time. In fallow periods, I start watching the Argentinian second division and all that sort of stuff. Rebellion says he wants England and Scotland to do well. So do I. Look, I think we've probably got our first guest with us, haven't we, Pooch? Can we bring up the legendary Paul Cox, comedian, campaigner? How was it for you last night, Paul? And have you recovered yet?
Look. Last night was extraordinary, actually. I thoroughly enjoyed the game, which, first of all, is not something that usually happens when we're watching England. And certainly for me, I always feel a bit nervy. I appreciate that in the first half, the England team were nervy. I didn't appreciate, actually, how badly the coaching team thought we'd played until that extraordinary halftime interview, where I thought, wow, I forget the name of the coach now, the understudy to Tuchel, but he was very much not in favour of what he had seen on the pitch. And I thought, well, this is extraordinary because I think we've done quite well, but that's because we saw the sort of normal things that we see. But my God, when they started the second half, did I think to myself, this is technically a very strong England team. And not just technically, I thought the team unit, no matter what the changes were, knew exactly what their remit was, stuck to it, and played incredibly well. I'm not saying it's coming home. That would be ridiculous after game one. But what I will say at this point is I have a very strong feeling that this England team will make us feel proud by the end of this tournament, Mark.
Yeah, and look, I was speaking to a couple of football experts a couple of weeks ago who said that although what we hear as fans is, usually kind of word salad from pundits. They've got to get at them in the second half. They've got to continue the momentum. They want more power and strength. But actually, the people who actually set up the teams are doing way, way more than that. They're looking at every single tiny angle. What did they change at half time, do you think, Paul? Because I just assume that there's a kind of blood and thunder rallying cry. Go get at them, lads, we can do better than this. But there were tactical changes as well, right?
There were. However, we learnt from both Jude Bellingham and Harry Kane after the game that Tuchel had essentially orchestrated a speech during half. Not a motive, just... We have taught you a way to play, and we are going to win and lose by that method. Just trust in the process, trust in the tactics that we've imparted, and play with heart and gusto. And that's exactly what they did. I mean, just that first 5 or 10 minutes alone, Jude Bellingham's goal was an exquisite goal. And by the way, Jude Bellingham, I don't know how much of a mention he's had on your show so far, but I thought he was extraordinary last night. He's a towering footballer, a huge man, technically very good. There is no one to compare him with in that position in the England team. So thank goodness they stuck with him. But that individual goal was exquisite, I thought. And from that point on, it felt to me like England's confidence grew and grew exponentially to the point where you just felt throughout the game, even in that spell later on in the second half where Croatia started passing the ball around, took a little bit of control for a while. You always felt that England were always perhaps going to get another goal or hold on. But there was a moment, I think, about 55 minutes into the game, just after the second half, just after Jude Bellingham, where England were all over Croatia, who are a mighty team, by the way, a team of heart. They were all over them in a way that made you feel like this was boys against men, in a way that we don't normally talk about an England team. We just were overpowering them tactically, in strength, in passion. And I think all Thomas Tuchel did at half-time was remind the players what the time they have spent with him and his coaching team have spent with them leading up to the game, saying, this is how we're going to play. I have chosen a team to play this way. I have not chosen the biggest names. I have not chosen the biggest reputations. I have chosen the team that can play a certain way. And if we play that way, I don't care whether we win, lose or draw, but we are going to play this way. And that's exactly what they did. And it felt like they had an enormous amount of trust in what Thomas Tuchel said at halftime.
Yeah, I just saw coming up in the chat there was one question about VAR on Croatia's second goal. Now, I'm a bit of a VAR skeptic. Paul, it's very good of you not to have ribbed me about the travails of Southampton Football Club as a Portsmouth fan yourself. But one reason I'm glad we were disqualified from the playoffs is I won't have to put up with VAR next season. I hated it in the Premier League. You can't celebrate a goal. I'm basically, if you can get instantaneous stuff like goal line technology, a yes, no in a millisecond, I'm fine about it. But sort of 6 minutes of drawing lines on a pitch. Now, somebody just asked in the chat, why was there no VAR for the Croatian second goal? And I was sort of looking at that thinking, this is going to be 6 minutes to resolve this. But the Americans or FIFA or someone seem to have got this right, okay? I think there's been no wrong decision yet. I might be wrong about that. But also the decisions are instantaneous. So my understanding was that Croatian second goal was checked for offside, cleared within a few seconds, then the whistle blown for half-time. Where are you on the technology, Paul, in general, and how it's worked in this tournament so far?
So I'm much like you, Mark. Maybe we're men of a certain age where maybe not such a big fan. And I watch a lot more EFL football than I do Premier League football, as you pointed out. I'm a Portsmouth fan. The reason I've not given you any stick is I don't think that I've got anything to gloat about other than two draws against Southampton. And I remarkably have quite a few Southampton fans that are friends. And I felt a little bit sorry for particularly the Southampton fans. It was incredible for me. It's an emotion I don't think I've ever felt. It took some time to get used to. But it felt quite unfair for the fans, and I'm not glad that we're playing you next season because I fear that if you've got the same form, we're going to get trounced each time. But anyway, back to the technology. I think that what's happened in this particular World Cup, because it's being played in the United States of America, who are seriously advanced in terms of game technology beyond the Premier League. Obviously, they had it in place long before the Premier League had VAR. I think that they've learned the quickest possible method to make a decision. And that's wonderful to see. If we can make decisions that quickly, in the Premier League, then it would make it much more watchable. There's something a lot more exciting now, sometimes a little bit unfair, but more exciting about watching a game or not having VAR as part of the game. Obviously, in the EFL, in the Championship that you and I watch most regularly, we don't have any of that whatsoever. And some appalling decisions are made. But it feels to me, particularly as someone who born in the late 70s and watched a lot of 80s and 90s football, it feels to me that's the way football's meant to be played. There's meant to be humanity involved, and mistakes add to the excitement. But it is good to see, particularly at this top level, that they're using the technology in an extremely expedient way, which is not holding back. And I don't think that I would have disallowed anything from that second goal. And I don't, like you rightly pointed out, I don't think there's been any big decisions that have been called wrong. Do you, Mark?
No. Well, I mean, a big decision, I guess, Paul, was to retake the penalty, right? So Harry Kane stutters up, the penalty is saved. And I would have thought if that had happened in the Premier League, the referee would have been surrounded by players. There would have been 10 minutes looking at whether a defensive player had encroached or whether the goalkeeper was off the line. Having watched it all back now 20 times, it's evident the decision was correct, and there were actually two grounds to. I can't remember who the player was who encroached. I also didn't know encroachment into the box isn't of itself an offence by the defensive team. It's only an offence if you then interfere with the attacking play. So if you clear the ball away after the goalkeeper has saved it, then the penalty is retaken if you encroached. But they got that, quite a complex decision, spot on within seconds.
Yeah,
a marvel.
Yeah, go on, sorry, Mark. Like you say, there were two offences there. One was encroachment, which I believe is what the penalty was retaken for. But had that not have stood up to scrutiny, then the goalkeeper was definitely off the line. And the reason we know that is because I think of the silly little walk up that silly little. Who am I to say that Harry Kane is silly in any way? It was a great second penalty, but the first penalty, I don't like this staggered walk up to the ball. But in doing so, he identified himself very quickly, because he's looking for that goalkeeper to make the move, and he did make the move. So you're absolutely right, Mark. In this instance, if it carries on like that, I could become a fan of VAR.
Well, there you go. Well, look, I'm delighted that such peace and love is breaking out across the world, the USA and Iran, and now Southampton and Portsmouth. This is fantastic stuff. But I want to show you a clip, Paul, of obviously the Democratic Republic of Congo had a great result against Portugal. And this is amazing. I don't know. Have you ever been to an away match at Southampton as a Portsmouth fan, or an away match against a big rival?
Actually. Right? Only two, but just two.
So imagine you are a small number of DR Congo fans in Lisbon, where the streets are crowded and people are watching it on big screen televisions. This is ballsy. This would be, Paul, a bit like you and a few of your mates going absolutely crazy in a Southampton pub if Portsmouth score a winner. So I wondered, Pooch, if we can pull up clip number 3.
Because there's a group of Congo fans there right in the middle, right in front of the screen. That's absolutely fantastic. It's a great header, isn't it? Yeah, that's a great timing. That's fantastic. What for the proceeds?
Absolute props to those Congo fans, right? That is brilliant.
Wow.
That
was the first time I'd seen that, Mark. I love how they were all just in the middle there, like a fountain, a Congo fountain. One thing I will say about this World Cup, not one thing, I'll say anything you want me to say, to be fair, but the one thing that's really stood out to me is the fact that the fans aren't segregated in the grounds and there isn't any trouble. It's being incredibly well policed, incredibly well stewarded. And I think it's making, for so far, a really sort of community. I don't want to go all left wing on this or bring any politics into it whatsoever, but it feels like a very community feel World Cup. And I'm all for it, Mark.
Great. So you're loving the diversity, equality and inclusion of FIFA 2026, says right-wing Paul Cox.
I'm going to seek help, but right now I'm quite enjoying it, Mark. Yes.
Now, I don't know if you know, Paul, but we're keeping a running tally on this show. We'll give you as the running tally at the end of this week. but we're doing a Mark versus the rest of the world predictions competition. I'm doing rather better on that than I am doing on my daily bets, all three of which have presently been losers. And that means I need you to predict the result of, now this is controversial, is it the Czech Republic versus South Africa, or is it Czechia versus South Africa? Some people think it's a bit woke to call it Czechia. I think that might now be its official name and the way to pronounce it in English, but I'm going to get to the bottom of that. But I have predicted Czech Republic 2, South Africa 0. So the house always wins. I have the ability to go first for each prediction. So you can predict any score other than 2-0 to the Czechs. Paul, what are you going for?
Well, it is the Czech Republic to you and I, and most of our viewers here, Mark. Of course, it is. But Czechia, obviously, on paper, look like the stronger team. But I just have a feeling this is going to be a 1-1 draw. I've been thinking it this morning. It's just got one for me. I don't know why. I've just got this sense that it's a 1-1 draw, Mark.
There you go. Well, there've been a lot of draws. Paul, great to have you with us. Glad you're in such high spirits. Glad you're enjoying the DEI of FIFA World Cup 2026. That was the wonderful Paul Cox, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you,
Enjoy the rest of the tournament. We'll have you back on very soon, Paul. Great to see you, mate.
Thank you, Mark. Take care. Bye.
Let's bring back Glynn, the Glindex, just before we go to the news. I want to know because I'm watching this in lovely Calador in Spain. Look, lots of England fans here. Another Pompey fan enjoying the show. Yeah, thanks. Feel free to throw abuse at me for being a Saints fan in the chat, by the way. But obviously the reaction here in the bars last night, packed with England fans, great. But I don't really have a feel for how it's being picked up in the media, Glynn. You've been pouring through the papers. What's the take on it there? Are we also getting out of control? Paul Cox was warning us against sort of saying there's one win, it means it's all going to come home. We tend to tilt too much one way or another. Tell us what the reaction's been back in Blighty, mate.
Yeah, well, I've been looking at kind of what the papers say, as you say, but it's almost what the virtual papers say, because technically, just because the game ended at 10 o'clock, that's really too late for a lot of the papers to get it in their first editions. So I was online quickly to see what the reaction would be. The Mirror, rather disappointingly, because normally they're great on headlines and stuff. They nail, the story in 3 words. But they just went straight down the middle. It was Harry makes history. Kane equals Lineker's England World Cup record to fire 3 lines to thrilling Croatia victory and start campaign with big win, which seemed a bit meh to me. I don't know about you. The Telegraph, the Staid Telegraph, have kind of gone all in here. There are 7 separate stories within no time, with their main headline, England the Entertainers lay down a World Cup marker. I think none of us can disagree with that. Thoroughly entertaining game, even if some of the entertainment was worrying about what was going to happen at the back. Jamie Carragher, he's saying, Tuchel is ripping up everything we know about international football. Couldn't see the article, but there's the headline. Is he really ripping up everything we know?
No.
Maybe.
No. Exaggeration.
He just played like he was throwing the dice a little, I think. Then Oliver Brown writes, exhilarating England were unthinkable under Southgate. I think that's true. Absolutely true, because they played with heart, adventure, no fear.
And what's been your headline of the day about it, Glynn?
Oh, God, it's got to be The Sun, as ever. It needs no other response other than Dallas Wow Boys.
There you go. Now, I also had, just before we go to the news, here is a stat to conjure with, right? So make sure, Glynn, you put this in the Glindex for future reference. It's often been said of England, even if we get off to quite a good start, that as soon as we meet a good team, we crumble. And there's no doubt about it. Croatia are a good team. Their present FIFA ranking, I'm told, is 11th in the world. I think England are 3rd. So 2 very good teams. That is the first time in the World Cup that we have beaten a team ranked in the top 15. Croatia are 11th. It's the first time England have beaten a team in the top 15 since David Beckham's penalty beat Argentina 1-0 all the way back in 2002. So we've waited 24 years to beat a top team. If you that's a sense of, that's a pretty big triumph in itself, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And I mean, they've cleared a hurdle in a way that you and I didn't think. We both went for one apiece last night, didn't we?
We can't have done because we have to have different predictions, don't we?
I didn't have an official prediction.
Okay. Your
I just
secret,
went.
your side hustle prediction.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, listen, we're going to, coming up after the news, we're going to tell you a little bit, everything you need to know about Canada, because we're sort of treating this as the whole thing's being hosted in the USA. It's not, of course. It's also being hosted in Canada and Mexico. Fewer matches, I grant you, but it's a tripartite tournament. And the Canadians often get overlooked and just lumped in with the USA. So we're going to have a look at our Commonwealth friends and allies with a country focus on Canada and everything you need to know about it after we've had the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes with your Thursday Bulletin. England got their 2026 World Cup campaign off to a thrilling start, beating Croatia in Dallas with standout performances from Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. Economically, the Bank of England is widely expected to hold interest rates amid Middle East instability, while the BBC revealed plans for 550 job cuts, starting with around 200 in news, as part of a major £500 million savings drive. In politics, tensions simmer around Keir Starmer amid by-election pressures and internal challenges. Other stories include strong progress against cervical cancer in vaccinated young women, and a developing European heatwave set to push UK temperatures above 30 degrees Celsius. Geopolitical notes involve UK-Russia tensions over the Shadow Fleet and Ukraine developments. A mix of sport, belt-tightening, and summer vibes dominates the day. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Thanks. That was Edward Hughes with the news. And of course, that important clarion call, like and subscribe. The UK online channel is getting bigger and bigger, growing almost exponentially. But if you're not subscribed, because we had to reboot the whole thing, make sure you are. Hit that subscribe button. And if you're enjoying the show, or frankly, even if you're not enjoying the show, even if you just hate watching the show, please give it the thumbs up below as well.
Quick
Now,
update, Mark. Quick update. You've got
quick
double
update.
the audience that you had yesterday, so it's fantastic.
There you go. Doubling everywhere. This is excellent. So stick with us. We've got lots more to come. And we're now going to reach for the Glyndex. Glynn, tell me what I need to know about Canada. So the key thing that I do know about Canada is the one player still registered with Southampton Football Club in the World Cup, Kyle Larin, is their centre forward. He started from the bench, actually, in their first match, but scored a fantastic goal to earn them a point. But other than that, what do I need to know about maple syrup? What else do I need to know? The Mounties. Tell me about the moose or whatever. Anyway, I don't know. What do I need to know? Tell me what I need to know, Glynn. You're the Glyndex.
No, that's it really, Mark. We've got 6 minutes silence now. You know, I can't do any more. Or I can if you really want. I think everybody tends to think of Canada as just an adjunct to the United States. Certainly Donald Trump does. But that's so wrong, because the astonishing thing about Canada is its sheer bloody size. It's actually the second largest country in the world by total area. It's astonishing. It's nearly 10 million square kilometres. Now, compared to the UK is 250,000 square metres. So Canada is something in surface area is 42 times bigger than the UK. But the population is only 2/3 of the UK. It's like 40 million. So everybody's got plenty of room, no pressure on property prices, that's for sure. Also, this is just amazing it is for me. Canada has over 2 million lakes. That's more than the rest of the world put together. And those lakes hold roughly 20% of the world's freshwater supplies. And it's so big, it spans 6 time zones. It also
so
shares the world.
Surely the lesson is don't put Thames Water in charge of their lakes, right? I mean, they would dry up pretty quickly or get sewage filled pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What about the football side, Glynn? Just on the journey, the size of it, because I'm trying to get my head around this. But I'm told that the journey from one end of Canada to the other is, if you were to drive it, I mean, God knows how ropey the roads get in the kind of Canadian outback or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
If you were to drive it, it's the same as driving from Lisbon in Portugal to Moscow and back. That's the sort of scale of it. So huge expanse of land. What do we know about the football team other than my love and knowledge of Kyle Larin?
Well, the good news for Canada tonight is that their star player, Alphonso Davies, plays for Bayern Munich. I don't think he made the first game, but he's certainly fit for selection tonight. They've not announced their lineup yet, but he's world class, brilliant left-footed, left back, great going forward, great at dribbling, nightmare for opposition defences. And he'll be absolutely desperate to play because he started his career with Vancouver Whitecaps. And they'll be playing at Vancouver Whitecaps Stadium, the BC Place Stadium, this evening in Vancouver. So his fingers will be crossed that their manager, Jesse Marsh, you may remember him, former Leeds manager, often unfairly compared to Ted Lasso, I'm afraid, when he was here. But I think that was just jingoism on our part. But a curious thing about Jesse Marsh, used to coach the US team as well, if I recall. He now lives, despite managing Canada and despite the endless places of lovely, cheap places to live, he now lives in Italy and spends his spare time learning the lingo and producing olive oil. He's got a 700-year-old villa in Tuscany. But there is method in his madness. He says, all of the players I pick are in Europe, so I've got to be near to watch them. But that's about it on that side of the equation. Do you want to know a little bit about their opponents, Kata?
No, we'll come to that in the match the match previews a bit later. Just wanted to know about Canada. So it's bloody massive. Southampton centre forward plays for them, and the manager lives in Tuscany and has a huge villa. These are our key takeaways, right? I'm hoping we've got our next guest ready because that was Canada. I want us to talk a little bit about the USA because I'm a big fan of the United States of America. I'm a total Atlanticist. I lived there for a few years as a boy. I haven't been back for a while, but I generally visit pretty regularly. And I've always wanted America to embrace soccer, and I want to kind of know what the feeling is amongst Americans. So I'm worried. Do we have Patrick with us yet, Pooch?
Well, while we're waiting for Patrick, I can tell you, if you remember, Mark, I lived in LA for 6 years as well. And my bad luck was there was hardly any bloody football when I was living there. The summer I came back, Galaxy signed David Beckham, and then the game there was on a huge upward trajectory. And now they've got 3 teams in LA, I think, and Son Heung-min's playing there and blah, blah, blah. So it's really taken off. And you can watch football in any bar now. You can see the Premiership anytime in the States, which you couldn't back then.
Yeah, okay. So we're trying to track down Patrick.
Sorry, Patrick, not here yet, Mark.
All right, okay, don't worry, we're on it, I think. So, all right, Glynn. So, say again, Pooch. I just heard the voice of God there for a moment.
That's all right. I will let you know when he arrives. Okay, apologies.
Okay, yeah, just pipe up when we get him in. So,
do you want a bit more about Canada, Mark, or shall we do
there's more to know about Canada?
Oh, there's more to Canada than meets the eye. Yeah.
Glynn, what's their nickname? What's the Canadian football team nickname?
Oh, you've got me now. I think you were asking me, Pooch, because you know.
No, I don't know. The reason we didn't communicate just then was because I had to run off to the loom and Scarlett was running the show, and so anyway. No, I just suddenly thought of it, but it's a good. Should we Google it?
I'll find that out after this broadcast.
It's got to be
in the meantime, few offbeat facts about Canada as well. They may be hosting the World Cup, but ice hockey is their national sport, or at least it is in the winter. And their summer sport, not cricket like us, but it's lacrosse for them. No sniggering at the back of the classroom, but the national symbol is the beaver. And maple syrup is its biggest produce, I think. The province of Quebec produces approximately 3/4 of the world's entire maple syrup supply. And they even have vast vats of it in reserve so they can make sure there's never a shortage, or indeed they can control prices as well, much like it's Canadian oil, I think, in real terms. And people forget it's still a constitutional monarchy as well, so they doff their cap to King Charles. It's also the official home of Santa Claus. The Canadian Postal Service recognised the code HO, 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 right? And anyone who writes to Santa Claus at that address gets a reply courtesy of Canada.
Hang on. That's just completely made up. Santa Claus doesn't live in Canada. Completely ridiculous. Or are they laying claim to the North Pole in the same way that
Yes,
Trump's laying claim to Canadian territory?
to Canada,
I'm
yeah.
told Patrick's in the
Patrick's
waiting
here.
room.
Patrick's here. Patrick's here.
Brilliant.
Welcome, Patrick. Welcome.
There you go. That's about as much Canada as I can take. So let's get
I've got
back to.
more.
We've got more. Okay. Patrick, how the devil are you, sir? This is Patrick Basham of the Democracy Institute in Washington, D.C. Are you coming at us from Washington, D.C. today, Patrick?
Sir, I am indeed the belly of the beast.
The belly of the beast. Now, it's great to see you again, my friend, but I particularly wanted to get you on because I've been asking all of my friends based out in the States, how is the kind of World Cup going down there? You know, is anybody sort of taking any notice of it, or are they all just watching what we must be about halfway through the baseball season now? Is that still taking, a higher level of interest amongst American sports fans? But I was completely fascinated because your Democracy Institute has done an opinion survey of how people kind of view the World Cup through a political kind of lens, really. And I didn't think that football and politics were quite as connected as this in the USA. So I want you to talk us through the findings, which I found absolutely incredible. The first one, which I guess is a little bit of a jokey one, and this is slide one, image one, Pooch, is who would you invite to a World Cup viewing party? What can we read into this? Trump gets 22%, AOC 15%. So we've coloured the Republican politicians red and the Democrats blue. They do things the wrong way round, of course, in the United States of America. Should be the other way round. Patrick, what do we make of this? Is this an indication of the popularity of politicians or just how much they're party animals?
Neither, really. We ask these kinds of questions around July 4th, Thanksgiving, this kind of thing, because they allow people to sort of free themselves a little bit. People think of it as a fun question, so they tend to be a little more open and honest. And what you see with something like this is it's very much about personality, right? Whether you like a particular politician or not, whether you actually would want them in your house with your friends, whether you think you'd be quaffing beers with them, watching the game, that's a whole different thing. And that's where Trump always does well, right? He, even in a field of 10 or 12 competitors for people's party invite, he still does comparatively well, far better than anybody else, because Trump is a big personality. Everybody thinks he'd be kind of fun. Who knows what he would say? Who knows how he would behave, right? So that's on the Republican side. The only person who comes close to him is Tulsi Gabbard, right? Someone who actually comes across as a human being. But on the Democratic side, it actually tells us, where the zeitgeist is or certainly headed. AOC is clearly far and away the most popular Democrat to be invited because, again, she used to be a bartender before she became a very rich congressperson, I should say. She seems like she'd be fun. She'd be jumping up and down. She'd be screaming, getting really upset every time America did well. And on the Democratic side, that would be seen as a good thing, probably. So it tells us who resonates, who reaches beyond politics, above politics, to the American public. And I say it's Trump on one side, it's AOC on the other.
Wow. Okay. So we got to keep our eye. I mean, I quite like her when I've never met her personally, but she comes across as a human being. I know she's crazy left wing, but nevertheless, she comes across as a human being. But then this is it's one thing about who you're going to invite to a party, but this is absolutely astonishing. We've got the midterm elections in November. If you pull up slide 2, Pooch, look how well the USA does in the World Cup. Look, I appreciate 84% of Americans say it will make no difference. But let's suppose the American team has a successful World Cup. I don't know what that would necessarily amount to, a quarterfinal, a semi-final, perhaps better than that. 12% of people say they are more likely to vote Republican and only 4% less likely. Now, Patrick, you're the pollster, but in theory, this could add 8% to the Republican vote tally in the November elections, right? So forget spending all this money on political adverts. Just get behind Team USA if you want the GOP to do well in November. Talk me through that. What have I missed?
Yeah, maybe so, because in American elections, a few points either way makes all the difference, right? So although 84% is saying no difference and a few 4% is saying less likely, you've got a net of a few points saying yes if the U.S. is successful. I think what it speaks to how soccer has really seriously begun to permeate the American consciousness. But what it also tells us is that nationalism is still important in elections, right? And what is the World Cup? It's politically incorrect to really event perversely, unintentionally, because it's all about nationalism and patriotism. This is why people get so excited about their country and how it is or isn't doing, right, against other countries. So Americans, if they see their country doing well, they swell with pride. And the president's party is the natural beneficiary of this. Again, at the margin, but the margin could be all the difference. I mean, you have to remember. I mean, we've had not World War. Sorry, we've had wars begin over football matches. 1970. It's said Harold Wilson, the Labour Party, lost re-election in 1970 because West Germany beat England in the quarterfinal of the World Cup. These things, it's hard to measure precisely, but this gives us an indication that if the American team does get to the semifinal or even the quarterfinal, that it's going to reward Trump, or at least, by default, his Republican Party. And with the American team having started so well, it's only one match, but having started so well, the amount of interest and the amount of enthusiasm and excitement is tenfold what it was the morning of the game with Paraguay on the Friday. So there's lots to play for, not just for the Team America, but also for Trump and his Republicans.
Now, the next one, and I'm not totally sure I understand the question here, was, will this be the Trump World Cup? That's, I think, slide 3, Pooch. And a majority say it will be the Trump World Cup. But what does that mean? And is that a good thing or a bad? Are those results good or bad for the president? Might you say it will be the Trump World Cup because we'll see him absolutely everywhere and he'll probably steal the trophy off whichever team wins? Is it good or bad for the president that it is? But a majority of Americans think it will be the Trump World Cup.
Yeah, Trump has his fingerprints, his paws all over this, right? He was president when they were awarded the World Cup. He's got a very close relationship with Infantino, who runs FIFA, and he has been very front and center. He wasn't at the Paraguay game, but he called Pochettino, the American coach, before the game. So he's almost certainly going to go to matches, particularly if America gets into the knockouts phases, etc. And so he has tied himself to the economic success of it, the cultural success of it. And so again, if the American team does well, there'll be more and more Trump, and it'll be Trump. I don't know if you want to say Trump the statesman, but certainly Trump the patriot, right? So he'll be wrapping himself literally and figuratively in the flag. Like you say, if America wins, maybe wrapping himself in the trophy as well. And so Americans who already identify him with the World Cup will give him some benefits, some kudos, some political advantage if the American team is seen to succeed, because he will be seen to have been, at least in a sort of institutional, financial sense, political sense, integral to that success.
Now, I'm going to finish on, I think you did the polling between June the 6th and June the 8th, Patrick. The Democracy Institute did this polling. And obviously, the situation around the Straits of Hormuz have been fluid. But nevertheless, a couple of brilliant questions about how Americans see that conflict through the lens of the World Cup. Image 4, you ask, should Iran be competing in the World Cup at all on American soil? A roughly 2-to-1 ratio. 36% of Americans think that Iran should not be allowed to compete in the competition. Should point out, by the way, if you host a World Cup, FIFA rules insist that you must allow any FIFA team to compete. In fact, little known fact here, Indonesia were due to host the Under-20s World Cup, and they said they would refuse to allow the Israeli team to compete and to play, and therefore the hosting rights were stripped from them. So anyway, there's me being a bit of a nerd about the FIFA regulations, but what do you make of that polling to show hostility to Iran, or how much America's a welcoming place? What does that mean politically, those numbers, Patrick?
At the time we asked that question, it's almost exactly the same numbers as the answer to the question, do you support the war, right? You got a little over a third of Americans a week ago supported the war still. and they, almost to a man or a woman, did not want the Iranians to be playing in the World Cup. 2/3 roughly against the war, saw no problem with it at all. So that shows politics and sport mirror one another, are intertwined in the terms of this World Cup and this American president and this administration and its foreign policy, right? But it also shows you how, further to that, it shows you how Trump sort of missed the moment in the terms of he never had the public on his side before the war, during the war. Now, if we want to call it perhaps over, almost over, he doesn't have them with him on that issue. So he's not going to have them on whether Iran should or should not have competed. He wasn't keen on it. He would have loved to have ripped up the FIFA rule book and not had Iran around. But as you say, he didn't really have any choice. The Iranians were able to get their stuff, their side, literally and figuratively together. And the American public don't have a problem with that. It's not that there isn't angst towards Iran amongst more than a third of Americans, but that's quite different from thinking that geopolitical clash, that conflict, that war should overwhelm what still to most people is a sporting event more than a political event.
Yeah, and then the last question, I thought this was fascinating and might be proof, Patrick, of the old idiom that association football is merely war conducted through peaceful means. And this is the fifth slide, Pooch. And the question here was, if America plays Iran in a sudden death World Cup game, is America's reputation on the line, right? And there are numerous permutations and combinations about how this could happen. I suspect, to be honest, that Iran probably won't make it into the knockout phases, but they could. There's plenty of upsets. What do we read into this? America's reputation is on the line, dependent on how the Team USA performs in a football match?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the most obvious way, or the easiest way, as it were, is if they both come second in their respective groups. So yeah, if you pose that hypothetical, what if the one thing? Okay, you're okay. Most Americans are okay with the Iranians playing on American soil. But what about if they actually play America on American soil? And people are okay with it happening, but how does it make you feel? How would it make you feel if Iran won, for example? That's where it starts to get tricky. That's where it starts to get people start to get a little hesitant about how they think Trump may or may not have handled this. He has to hope. Well, he has to hope. Probably the best thing for him is low risk that they don't meet. If they do meet, he has to hope and pray that the Americans win, because the patriotism, the nationalism will be sky high. And so it would be great for Trump if America beat Iran in a match. But if the Iranians were to come out triumphant, that could really just take all the air out of this World Cup balloon, which has the potential, at least, to help Trump and his Republicans.
Patrick, fascinating stuff. I mean, desperate news for fantasists like me who want to keep sport and politics separate. You've completely proven that we can't do that. Before I let you go, two things. Firstly, and sorry to spring this on you, I'm not expecting you to have done much research because I want to win this predictions game. But I'm asking each of the guests on our show to predict one of tonight's matches. And we're keeping a running tally, which we'll release at the end of each week, about whether I'm beating the rest of the world or the rest of the world is beating me. My reputation is on the line. Sod Donald Trump for the moment. And the match you need to predict, Patrick, is Switzerland versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. That's playing tonight. I have predicted 2-0 to Switzerland, so that's the only score you can't predict. What is your prediction?
I will predict 2-1 to Switzerland.
2-1 to Switzerland. Good shout there, good shout. I think I'm slightly ahead of the rest of the world at the moment. And lastly, Patrick, how can people find out more about your work at the Democracy Institute?
Sure, our website, democracyinstitute.org, or I'm on X at Patrick Basham, DI.
Patrick Basham, DI, or democracyinstitute.org. Patrick, great to have you with us. We'll check in with you later on in the tournament as well, whether the USA do well or badly, and then you can tell us whether it means the Republicans are going to win or lose the midterm elections. Been great to have you. Thanks so much, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Right, let's bring the Glindex back in because there's a whole load of tonight's games that we've got to look through. The Czech Republic against South Africa. I've gone for 2-0 there. Although the Czechs didn't have much of a great start to the tournament. I'm beginning to actually think that teams in the European Union are underperforming, basically. Not European teams. England have done well. Norway have done well. They're not in the EU. So I think there's a Brexit benefit. Leave the EU and your football team will perform better. But Glynn, talk us through these matches. Czech Republic versus South Africa. What's on the line? What to look for?
Yeah, sure. We're against the clock, so I'll rattle through these. It's first off about tonight's match. It's a pretty rare clash. These two teams have never faced each other in head-to-head meetings in major tournaments, so there's no form from years ago to go on. The Czechs are 41st in the FIFA rankings. Best known player, Thomas Souček of West Ham. I think you might see his swirling goal celebrations tonight. I think there's a fair chance of that. The other Czech player to look out for is Patrick Schick, plays for Bayer Leverkusen. Great finisher, 26 goals in 54 internationals, no slouch at all. 80 goals in 149 games for Leverkusen, so proven goal scorer. And also, he's the guy, I think... I'll come to another guy later. South Africa, they're 60th in the rankings, so the Czechs should do this. And they're also pretty lucky to qualify in the first place because one of their players, Teboho Makina, played in the qualifier when he was actually suspended. So they got their knuckles wrapped.
If that had been Southampton, they would have been. If that had been Southampton, they would have been kicked out of the tournament. There's no justice in this world. Okay, so
and the one to watch.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to rattle through these.
One to watch for South Africa. Lyle Foster plays for Burnley. He's their star striker. Switzerland
versus Bosnia. Now, the Swiss got off to a bit of a ropey start. They thought the game was won, and they let in a last-minute equaliser against Qatar. They've got to beat the Bosnians tonight, haven't they?
Yeah, I think there's a fair chance. So 19th in the world, proven track record at tournaments. They reached quarterfinals of the last two Euros. They've been in the last 16 at each of the past three World Cups. So I think they'll glide through eventually. I mentioned this the other day.
Granit Xhaka's their talisman, right?
He's their talisman, and well known to referees as well, of course. So if he gets through the game, he'll be good. And strangely, about Xhaka, his brother played for Albania, not for the Swiss.
See, this goes to. I think it's getting a bit iffy what nation you qualify for, right? I mean,
it's why I threw it in there, Mark. I knew to get you back up.
Yeah, and what about Bosnia and Herzegovina?
Bosnia and Herzegovina. Star striker Ermedin Demirovic. Plays for VfB Stuttgart in Germany. Energetic striker, eye for goal. And I mentioned this in one of the early shows, but the great thing about him is he promised to buy a beer for the entire Stuttgart team when Bosnia qualified for the World Cup. And he was as good as his word. He stood there behind the bar and served beer to all of the supporters. So he gets my vote.
Oh, hang on. The supporters or the team? You said the team. That's only around 20 points. Oh, the supporters.
I'm sorry.
Wow, okay. That's a lot of beer. All right. Canada versus Qatar. We talked a bit about Canada.
We kind of touched on Canada earlier, so I'll just focus on Qatar there. Star player is Akram Afif, 29-year-old, highly creative, technically gifted, their playmaker. And despite the fact he's on the left wing, he scored 41 goals in 137 games, so he's no slouch, more than respectable strike rate. Remarkable thing about him, again, I may have mentioned this to you, but I think it was off air, but he scored a hat-trick of penalties in the 2023 final of the Asian Cup. And each time he scored, he pulled a playing card out of his sock. So it was definitely a three-card trick, if ever there was one.
Why?
And the only play... I don't know why. Why does Gyökeres do this? I do know why Gyökeres does that, but is that sort of based on some Batman villain? Apparently, I thought you might know that, comic fan. And the only Qatari player that plays his football abroad is Hammam Ahmed. He plays in the Spanish second division. I won't pronounce his name; it's too difficult. And then Mexico, South Korea,
Yeah, this is probably the one I'm most looking forward to, actually. Both of these teams won their first match, right?
Yeah.
Mexico won 2-0 against the South Africans. The South Korea versus, let's call them the Czech Republic. I've decided that's their proper name in English. The Czechs were defeated 2-1 in a great game against South Korea. This looks to me like a match that will probably determine who tops the group, Mexico or South Korea, right? So what should we look for on both sides here, Glynn?
Well, obviously, Mexico got home advantage. They're ranked 15 in the world. They played really smart in the first game. This match, there might be a bit of needle for players who've been around a bit because it's a rematch of the World Cup stage clash they had in 2018, where Mexico came out 2-1 winners. It was a tight one. And I think it's going to be possibly like that again tonight. Player to look out for, or that you might know in the Mexican ranks, is Edson Alvarez. Belongs to West Ham, but didn't do particularly well there. He's currently on loan at Fenerbahce in Turkey, which seems to happen to a lot of players when they're not working out in the Prem. But
they go to Fenerbahce particularly.
Yeah, or Galatasaray. It's always one of those two
Turkey,
teams.
You're right. Turkey seems to get a lot of people who can't quite cut it in the Premier League. Okay, so Alvarez
anyway,
to look for.
It's his 100th cap tonight as well, so fantastic occasion for him. And then South Korea, I mentioned him earlier, but Son Heung-min is without doubt their superstar. I don't think we can describe how big he is in their homeland. But he holds fantastic records. He's a top Asian goal scorer in both the Premier League and the Champions League.
There you go.
And now, of course, he led Tottenham to victory in the Europa League as well.
I'm hoping Pooch has now got the predictions image. I think it's image number 9. We obviously have to do it live on air, but here you go. Tonight's matches. What have you got for us, Pooch? I saw the sort of bottom of it there. Here you go. We can see what Glynn has predicted. So the Czech Republic, I'm glad we got the wording right there. Well done, Pooch, changing that from the more woke Czechia to South Africa. I've said 2-0. Paul Cox earlier said 1-1. Switzerland versus Bosnia and Herzegovina. Sorry, we couldn't get the full name of the country into the slide there. I've also said 2-0. Patrick went 2-1. Canada, Qatar, for reasons I'll explain in a minute. I've gone 4-0 for the hosts, Canada, who we featured on the show. Glynn's gone for a more modest 3-0. Mexico, South Korea, I couldn't split them, Glynn. I've gone for a 1-1 draw, but you've just said you think it's going to be a 2-1 repeat. That would basically nail on that group. It's Group A, isn't it, for the Mexicans, right? So
home
there
advantage.
you go. On tomorrow's show, we'll tell you who was close, how I'm doing on each match against the rest of the world. But those are our predictions. Look, the other thing is my bet today, and, Gamble Aware and everybody else will tell you, if you are losing, don't chase your losses. Well, I never follow that advice. So in a desperate attempt to recover my losses and to give me a little bit of wriggle room, I've put 20 quid at odds of 42 on Southampton's Kyle Larin to score a hat-trick for Canada tonight. Rather worryingly, my initial prediction was for a 2-0 Canada win, so I had to change that quite rapidly to a 4-0 win. But that will be a huge rate of return. Although Larin did start on the bench last time, so I'm a little bit worried about that.
But he scored, right? Didn't he, last time?
Yeah, he scored, and he was fantastic. He nearly scored the winner in the 95th minute. God only knows what he was doing on the bench. Look, we've pretty much used up, I think, our allotted 4 minutes of additional time. I'll be seeing Peach holding the scoreboard. So, we're always an hour plus. Stop for, add on time for injuries and gremlins and all of the rest of it.
Injury time, Mark. Do you want to play the Spanish Lion? I think that.
Yes, I do. Because in Mike's show, we always have Pooch's Pooch, right? And I thought we should have our own version here. Now, this was a meme that went round after the Spain versus Cape Verde Islands game, that Spain's attack was supposed to be absolutely devastating, and the Cape Verdeans would be terrified of what was facing them. And I think this is the best Pooch's Pooch clip. It beats anything you've had on the Mike Graham show. So, yeah, take it away. I think it's clip number 1, Pooch.
Wait, what? No way! Hey, buddy. Oh my gosh, I thought we were dead! He's wagging his tail.
Oh my gosh,
That
I
is
thought we were dead.
hilarious.
No,
That wins, Mark. That wins, hands down. That is hilarious.
that is pretty much the best pooch's pooch. Well, look, we've definitely used up our allotted time. Thanks to my wingman, the Glyndex, Glynn Brailsford. Thanks to my guest today, Paul Cox and Patrick Basham. Another great World Cuppa episode with me, Mark Littlewood. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you give us the likes, thumbs up if you've enjoyed it. We will be back at noon tomorrow. But before that, please join Mike Graham on his show at 7 a.m. And I think we've got Limbit Opic in for Russell Quirk. We're also going to have to discuss Burnham versus Reform tomorrow, as well as all of the matches. It's been a blast, guys. Thanks very much. Laters, Tigers. 4-2 to England, just as it was when we won the World Cup in 1966. It's coming home. This is a sign. 4-2 England. Brilliant, brilliant second half, or I should say fourth quarter. Get in.